Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, I'm Irma Mass, and if you've been listening to my story and my journey, or are a subscriber here, thank you so much for joining and coming back. I appreciate each one of you so much, and it means so much to me if you stick around. So thank you. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe or stick around as well. Today I'm going to be sharing some of my health journey. I have had kind of a long health journey, and I thought I would share some of the things that I have never shared before. Some of you that have been following me know some of my journey, and yeah, I am opening up about some of the things that I have very rarely shared because of I just needed time to process it myself and kind of be at a different place where I'm willing to share. So I'm ready to share, I guess I could say. So um, I know health can be a very sensitive topic, and it's also something that probably almost everyone has had in one shape or form, one way or the other. If you haven't yourself, maybe your family has, your brothers or your sisters or your parents, friends, church family, and so forth. And so I hope this can encourage someone and inspire someone that no matter what you've gone through, that you're not alone in this, and that there is hope and there is healing, and there is a God that cares about each one of you, that cares about us so much. If you're not a believer, you're welcome here anyways. You can always listen to my rant, and there's no, it's a free will. Believing in God is a choice, and I'm not here to make that choice for you. I can't make it for you, but you're most welcome to stick around and be my friend. I love you anyways. So my more significant, I'd say I was a very normal child growing up. I wasn't sick, or, I didn't have any major health issues or anything that I remember. Although some of this will play back in, that I can see now, play back into that. So I was 16 in 2010. I realized I came with what I thought was just I had a bad sore throat. If I'm looking down, I just have a paper here that I made some notes, some time frames, and some of the things that I wanted to touch on. I'm sure that I won't be able to touch on everything, and I know the story is very lengthy, and the story has a lot of details that I won't be able to get into in this video. But in 2010, I started with what was a sore throat, sick. We had church. We had church at our house, and so we were preparing for that. As you know, we cleaned everything, all the walls, the ceilings, the corners, the closets, and from top to bottom. And so there was a lot of work in a family of 13. And I kind of pushed on to get the work done. But I remember on the day that we had baptismal services at our place, I was just sick to my stomach and just like so tired. I was like, I have never felt this way before. It ended up, I was diagnosed, I went to the doctor, I was diagnosed with mononucleosis, Epstein-Barr virus, mono, maybe some of you are familiar with just mono. And so my thought was, well, I have a diagnosis, cool, we can deal with this. Unfortunately, and it kind of stuck around. I was fatigued, tired, and if I say I was mono tired, people that have had mono know what I mean. It's just like a tired exhaustion that you can't explain. In 2011, I started having some nervous breakdowns. I was going through a lot of stressful times in those years as well, and there were a couple of things that played into it, but I had a nervous breakdown, and there was one specific that I remember, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I had a very headache, and I just couldn't function. And I have realized since that is something that I've had like multiple times over the years. Some fibromyalgia and adrenal fatigue. Some of this I didn't understand what it was at the time. Some doctors didn't know what to diagnose me. It was just kind of with the mono fatigue, and there were times where I could play maybe volleyball a time or two, and then there were weeks or months that I was pretty flat, and then sometimes I could work part of the day. It was just kind of a dragging out. We didn't know what was going on. I knew there was a lot of stress as well. I did go through counseling, and I might share that some of that in another video. But in 2016, it continued with adrenal fatigue, adrenal failure. Eventually, it cut into my adrenals completely failing, completely burning out, to the point of just sheer exhaustion that it affected my heart. I Adrenal failure is hard to explain, but it's extremely, extremely miserable. You can't function. It's just like a part of your system crashed. I would say it's definitely different from nervous breakdown, but it's very, very miserable. In 2000s, and I also had, in those years, I had a lot of back pain and back problems. I went to chiropractic after chiropractic. I had MRI done on my complete back. I was diagnosed with, in 2012, I was diagnosed with Lyme's disease. And then we thought, hey, we have a diagnosis that we can work through again. I had hope again, because I thought, Lyme's disease is very trying. It's pain all throughout your body. It affects your brain and your nervous system, your bones, your muscles, the ligaments, your stomach, your digestive system, and it's actually a disease in your gut, of inflammation disease in your gut. Although I didn't understand that at the time, but I took chelation. I took rounds of antibiotics and some natural things. I went to a medical doctor that also did some supplements, but was mostly medical things, like as far as getting antibiotics and chelation through IVs type of thing. I started feeling some better. It made a difference. I got some of my strength back. I was still very fatigued. I didn't really understand what adrenal fatigue was. It wasn't something I was familiar with, but in later years I learned that is what I am dealing with, what I've dealt with at the time. In 2016, doing a lot of chiropractic adjustments and going through doing the MRIs, and at one point one chiropractor said I have scoliosis, other chiropractors disagreed. We got different opinions, and there was nothing major, nothing that they could do anything about it. I went through extreme confusion. I didn't understand what was going on in my body. Even say I had Lyme's disease, and that all made sense. There was just things happening that I didn't understand. Why didn't my body cooperate, automatically respond to things? Why didn't there was just things that I didn't understand. Why this and why that? In 2016, we did an MRI on my brain, and we found a brain cyst. Some doctors call it a brain tumor, call it what you want it. And so that was kind of the beginning of, I say the beginning, it was part of the journey. The other things were just, everything was so mixed in each other at this time. But I immediately they thought it was the size it was. We did some very intense, we did the brain puncture, the back puncture, not the brain puncture, sorry. We tried a bunch of different medications. He wanted me to get more opinions. We sent my MRI to Mexico. We sent it to different places, neurologists, neurosurgeons. It is at a place. So now we've come to the conclusion in these past few years that it isn't something that we can do something about it. And unfortunately, it's at a place where they can't do surgery and they can't do anything with it. It's like deep, and I could see it on my MRI. It's like on the left top middle side, and the medical one didn't have much. They knew it's there. Some of them said it's not affecting anything. Most of them said it does affect some things, but it's not something they can do about it. a month or two later, we did another MRI, and after we found the first one, and we kept watching it. We did several more MRIs over the past few years, and it hasn't grown, it hasn't changed, and so it's just something that is there. It does affect my everyday life. It does affect every area of my life, and that was some of why the confusion was. And trying different medications, I went through extreme headaches, ice cream headaches where I couldn't see correctly. And so we tried so many different medications until it came to the point where I said, we saw there's no point in taking more medications for that, and nothing helped in any way or shape or form. So that was kind of, it explained a lot for me, and that is what I haven't shared at all in the past. There are some people in my life that know it, my friends and things, but it's something that took a lot of time to process, and it took a lot of time to come to accepting it and understanding it, and understanding why it does and what it does. There was a doctor that was a neurosurgeon that I visited some years later for another. This was maybe 2 years after we found it in the beginning. And he said it was a neurosurgeon that also had the degree of a nutritionalist, chiropractic. He had a degree in a lot of things. He's not from around here. And he sat down and he started explaining me what it does. He said, your brain, we did all these different tests and weird tests, or what it seemed weird, like I smelled things and I closed my eyes for different senses, and he said, your brain, you can smell, but your brain doesn't automatically tell what it is. You can see, but your brain doesn't automatically tell you what it is. You can feel, but your brain doesn't tell you. And he explained one thing after another what is happening, and it explained so much of the confusion I was going through. It explained so much of like the frustrations that finally build up, because I understand now, when I smell something and I'm cooking, I don't know where it's coming from. I don't have that kind of sense. I can figure it out, but I didn't understand what was going on all these years. Why I couldn't put into words what it was. And when he told me all these things, I cried, and it just makes so much sense. And so understanding that, and I have constant head pressure, and it makes so much sense why I have the head pressure, which that I understood right after we did the first, we found that made more sense. But this doctor also told me, he said, you have head pressure, and you love people, but also like it's hard to stand people. And he just kept telling me all these things, and it finally makes sense. And that's what I wanted to know. There's nothing, he said the same thing as all the others did. He said that the brain, he called it a tumor. He said it's deep, like it's inside. There's nothing that they can do about it. But he said, except, I have to do an MRI every few years now. But I think just understanding the fact that I can smell and I just don't know where it is. Like, I can accept it. I have the choice now what I don't want to do with that, instead of just not knowing what is going on. And I think it does affect all my senses. There are things where my body doesn't automatically respond to something, It's hard to explain. Some people that are around me that know this, then they can see it, and that's okay. But it's most people say they don't notice anything, and I love hearing that because I'm a normal person. I have maybe half this brain tumor cyst thing, but I'm a normal person. And yes, I have head pressure all the time. It does affect my everyday life, but I now know what I'm dealing with. And so in 2017, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. Um, and the medical doctors, even in 2011 or about 2012, after the Lyme's disease, the medical doctors were kind of like, they don't know what to tell me anymore. At one point, my gallbladder was really not functioning and they wanted to take it out. We did supplement naturally and we got that going again. I never ended up needing to have surgery. My protein levels, my calcium, my thyroid, all of those like blood, regular lab tests, liver enzymes, my blood sugar, all of those things were high, they were low. My blood pressure was very low. My sympathetic nervous system was out of whack. Like everything, all the things were just out of high and low. And in 2017, when I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, they told me they didn't know what to tell me. The medical doctors wanted me. I tried another few medications. Some of it was for the pain. I was still having a lot of back pain and just pain through my body, but mostly I would say the worst was back pain. Chiropractics were part of my life. And they tried giving me energy drinks, the Boost energy drink with the first ingredient corn syrup, and which of course affected my blood sugar health. And so I started testing my blood sugar every day. I think I had started that prior to the energy drink, but I didn't take much of the energy drink. My blood sugar was out of whack and I got candida, yeast infections. So I didn't do the Boost energy drinks very long. I was testing part of my blood sugar for twice or 3 times, 2 to 3 times a day for a few years. From the 2010 to within the past 2 years, I lost about 45 pounds. I was never overweight. I was more on the petite side, as I am still. Like my body frame isn't that big, but I had lost 45 pounds. I was down quite a bit, under 100. So that was my life. Pain, fatigue, and I was still having adrenal failures, adrenal fatigue. And so to this day, I have come a long ways. Even the fact that I can go through this and share this without more emotions that I have, that is very encouraging to me. So in the past few years, I've definitely been on a healing journey, coming to the conclusion that the medical field doesn't have answers for me. They told me that a few times. They would have wanted to continue to give me medications and just keep going in circles and circles of doing chiropractic treatments and energy drinks and unhealthy things. And I realized that I had to do my own research, and I had to come to my own, like, what am I going to do? What I knew I needed something different and I needed to do something else. And so I am still on a healing journey. Thank goodness I am free of, the chronic fatigue, adrenal failure, fibromyalgia. I haven't had nervous breakdowns in years, a few years now. The Epstein-Barr virus is clear. I have gained a little over 30 pounds, so I'm still wanting to gain a little more, but that has definitely helped my strength and my overall health. And so I'm still on a healing journey, and some of the things due to the brain cyst, I will have some of those symptoms probably for the rest of my life. But with the healing the rest of my body, the brain cyst or the head pressure and the effects of the brain cyst or tumor has been easier to cope with. And I'm still on a healing journey. I might share more of it if you have. So that is kind of my my health story in a nutshell. I could go into a lot more details, and I could go into some relapses of the Lymes, and there's just but that is kind of the long and short of it. I'm definitely have come a long ways, but I'm still on the journey. And so yeah, I hope this was encouraging to you. If you're going through that, anything, no matter, maybe it's not Lyme's, and maybe it's not a brain cyst or chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia or Epstein-Barr virus or nervous breakdowns or adrenal failures, it doesn't matter what you're going through. I just hope this can encourage you that it doesn't matter what you're going through. There is hope on the other side. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is to to educate myself in mental health, in emotional health, in physical health, to educate so you can learn what works for your body and what works for your health to get out of it. So yeah, right now I do still have head pressure that I deal with, and the adrenal fatigue is something that's mostly gone, but I would say it's still on a journey somewhat. Nervous system, like my nervous system, it can take years to heal. I would say I'm well healthy with that part. The pain is pretty much gone, and the chronic fatigue is gone, as I said, and I'm just so thankful to be alive and to be well, and to I know God has a plan for me and for my life, and He has a plan for you and for your life if that's where you're at. So take courage if that's where you're at, and if you don't have health issues, great. Make good choices, and thank you for your support and supporting me. Many of you have been a wonderful support to me, and that just means so much to me. Without y'all, I would not be where I'm at today, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. I think that pretty well wraps it up. Thank you again for joining me today. If you have questions, feel free to comment below or message me or email me or whatever. And we will see you next time. Bye.